Yeah.
Probably start with you. You created the whole thing.
Yeah.
Congratulations, guys. We're watching it on a huge screen, but it's a TV show.
Yeah. Well, it's weird watching it full stop, basically. Do you know what I mean? You know,
Yeah.
because you never really expect anything to happen. You know, and you're always delightful that it did. You know.
How many times have you seen it now?
Seen that one. Well, I saw about 5 different cuts, and then a couple of times after that. And so yeah, probably 10 or so times now. You know, yeah. Okay. Sorry, I'm going to stop rubbing my hands together like a weird.
No, carry on. We've got to sign it while we wait for the 2 stars.
Yeah.
They're in the loo together. I like the way they're in the loo together, like they are in the show.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That friendship.
Exactly.
That special friendship. Let's talk about how you kind of created the whole thing, how it happened, how it got commissioned. What was the story there?
Well, Esther, who's here, Esther and Sue brought me into a room and said, what kind of TV show would you like to make? And I said, they said no. They said, if you could have made any show, which show would you have made? And I said Freaks and Geeks, because it's my favourite show.
Brilliant.
Hello there.
I didn't see you. Oh, okay. Fine. We're cracking on. Sorry. Freaks and Geeks.
And Sue, and I was wearing a Ghostbusters t-shirt, and Sue said, what about Freaks and Geeks meets Ghostbusters? And I said, okay. And then went away and tried to write it, and I wrote this show called Short Stuff and Weird. And it was awful. It was one of the worst things I've ever written. And
what was wrong with it?
It was about a boy who investigated ghosts with his granddad that lived in the pipes. It was just shit. It was terrible. Exactly. Yeah, it was really never should be shown or read or heard of. And I said I had this meeting with Esther, and I said to Esther, I've written a show and it's terrible. And what can I do? And she said, well, let's just write whatever you want to write. And so I started at the beginning, and it was actually the opening image was someone in front of a mirror, and they were cutting the inside of their chin, and then they lifted their face off. And that wasn't allowed on BBC Three, but that was the sort of start of a slightly stranger, more weird show. Yeah.
And so, at what point were you approached? Was this because you were known for you'd written for Skins and you'd written for This Is England '86? Was that what? That track record?
It was 5 years ago. It was Skins, Shameless, and they liked some stage plays, really. And and they were nice. And thought I'd do all right.
Yeah. Okay. And what stage did you get involved?
I got involved about 2 years ago at the stage where I came back to work after Christmas, and I was handed a pilot script in which on the first page the lead character slits his throat and lifted his face off.
Oh yeah.
And we then developed that and made it last spring, and it was really interesting and exciting experience to make it. It was a sort of similar version, I think, in the end to the episode 1 that you've just seen, but not as big and not as dark and not as scary. It was part of a pilot season that BBC Three ran, and our show got picked up. We developed another 5 scripts over the course of the next year, and then around about the same time we shot the series.
I was going to say, because the look of it is fantastic. I mean, it looks.
Thank you.
You're not even thinking about budget or anything like that. But was it a challenge to make a big kind of looking show on a presumably, I don't know.
It was presumably on BBC Three budget. Yeah, I mean, it was a huge challenge, and it's amazing really watching it on a big screen today, because you watch it 100 times, but I'm sort of really proud that it does stand up in the cinema. But I think, yes, it was a challenge, not least because every time Jack delivered a script, it would just be so absolutely packed with enormous and imaginative sequences that you kind of thought as a producer, oh my God, how do I make this now? But you just didn't want to cut any of them. And I spent pretty much the whole of that year developing with Darren Blackburn, who was director of the pilot and also the first 3 episodes, ways of cutting our cloth and shooting enormous sequences without completely blowing the BBC Three budget and only being able to make a short film every time. And I think the truth is that we had an absolutely brilliant and really committed crew and just a team of HODs who loved the show, and they loved the fact that they were coming to work every day and doing something that was so completely different and challenging and not what you normally get to do on a TV shoot. And I think everybody's commitment really saw us through. I mean, it's sort of...
Yeah, it's amazing when you go, there's this guy, Neil, and he lives in a caravan on the end of nowhere. and then your location manager comes back with this caravan beside a great big piece of water with just like, you know, and you just go, that's incredible. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Where was that shot? Because that location, when we first see the exterior of the caravan, that landscape, it's almost like something out of an old western or something.
Yeah,
No,
Amazing.
absolutely.
Near Luton, isn't it?
Yeah, it was. It's a quarry near Leighton Buzzard.
Oh, God, that's a quarry, haven't you?
We were so lucky because it was literally sort of that week of completely kind of heat haze summer when we were shooting it, and I stood there going, God, I feel like I'm in Arizona.
Yeah,
Really,
yeah.
I'm 10 minutes from Luton. And yeah, I mean, I think if we were, I had a running joke every time we were doing something completely impossible on set with Sue Hogley, executive producer, and I'd phone her up and I'd be like, this is what happens when we make your passion project. And I think the truth is that everybody who worked on the crew just made it their passion project and really went for it. So we didn't have enough time and we didn't have enough money, but I hope that it's a show.
Absolutely. Well, Ian, turning to you, I mean, what a great role, I guess, for a young actor. But how did you get involved? Did you have to audition? Was it a difficult thing to get the role, or just walk in and I get it?
I wish. No, it was like I met Carol and Farron first and just did a few scenes with them, and then when I came back, I think I did it with Dan, didn't I?
Yeah, you did.
Me and Dan sort of Dan who plays Mac.
You should be here, but
Yeah, he's meant to get up
He's
like.
filming. He should be
filming,
being
yeah.
whizzed over on the back
Yeah.
of a motorbike. So
in case you're wondering why there's an empty seat, I'm just talking about behind the back. Yeah, sorry.
So we just did a couple of scenes together and things like that, and then sort of went from there.
And what kind of impression were you given of the character when you kind of reading it? What were the things that appealed to you about it?
It was good, like for me, like from the start of the story, like I only really needed to find out who Paul was from the start of the story, and then everything else from then sort of is a reaction, and you can go as the script goes on. But I think he had a lot of the troubles which normally go on with someone of his age, like with girls, he wasn't very popular, and he wasn't very popular at school, and whereas Max played it right to that fact, I think Paul get into something a bit more. So he had that coupled with the side. He's got these crazy visions and nightmares, so that was quite interesting.
I've got this great quote which you gave to a BBC interviewer, which I'm going to read to you. Discuss your experience of filming, says the interviewer. You say, it's been a laugh. Johnny Harris is amazing, and the girls are hot. So was that the key kind of factor in the whole thing?
Yeah. I was lucky to meet it,
Yeah. Johnny, can you confirm?
Yeah.
That kind of general.
I'm amazing.
mood, you're amazing.
I'm just disappointed I'm not hot. Yeah, I'm really gutted now. Yeah, the girls are hot and Johnny's alright.
Yeah. What about you? How did you get involved? And what a great role do you get to shoot guns and have your eye gouged out?
Toys and toys.
Yeah.
It's a similar thing really. I was in I remember being in Sheffield. I was in a hotel. I was working. I was filming Mrs. England, which Jack obviously co-wrote.
Yes.
And Victoria, my agent here tonight, said there's a script and it's Jack Fong. It's a Jack Fong project straight away. And then I got the script and I remember reading in the hotel and I was just fascinated by it. When we met Karen and stuff, we did some reading on camera. And then they offered me the role, so I had to make a decision and then that was it really. It was quite scary in the sense, you know, that I've done a lot of sort of naturalistic genre, so, you know, that sort of genre. And so once they offered the part, then you've got to make the decision, am I going to do this? And so you look through it and self-preservation kicks in. You know, you think what's within my control and what's not. And it's a Jack Fong script. So pretty much everything outside of my character was, you know, there was effects, there was, you know, talk of Armageddon and stuff, you know, and you're like, well, how's this going to be done, you know, and so it's scary really, you know, and but then I said yes, thank God, and we turned up and like the guy said, it just all started buzzing and they were all there. For the first one, I heard then that the other cast members were going to be